What evil prank have you pulled off? My name's Ryan from Askreddit Tells, and today we're going to be looking at that. But before we do, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to help keep the channel running. Two of my friends have never met each other. Before they spoke, I told both of them that the other's a bit deaf. They shouted at each other for a few minutes before they realized that I'm the butthole. My mom's laptop wallpaper was a picture of her granddaughter. I copied the picture 100 times and made her wallpaper a slideshow of the same picture over and over again, so that they would change, but nothing would change visibly on the monitor. The pictures would change every 10 seconds. On one of the images, I painted a tiny little curly mustache on her. So randomly, for 10 seconds, my niece would have a mustache. My mom thought she was either losing her mind or had a computer virus, and every time the mustache popped up, it was gone by the time she tried to show anyone. I did something similar to a college friend. I replaced a single system sound file, the click for the mouse, with a 5-minute version. It started off identical, followed by 4 minutes and 50 seconds of silence, but at the end it had me screaming. Now if another system sound would play, it stopped playing the previous sound. So he would use his computer, and then when he would walk away, it might scream 5 minutes later. One summer in college, I worked at the registrar's office, registering all the incoming freshmen. A professor who was a mentor to me was teaching freshman seminar and asked me to handpick a class for her. Straight A students, high SATs, whatever. So I did. 15 students, all named Sarah. I saw a post about switching around mayo and vanilla pudding, emptied out a mayo jar and cleaned it well, filled it with a few pots worth of vanilla pudding, and took it to uni. Our uni's very lax about eating during the lectures, so I waited until midday when I was sitting in the middle of all my friends and they were all eating their lunch. Cue me taking out the jar of mayo, and a spoon popping the lid and taking a big ol' spoonful with a grin. At first, only the closest ones noticed, but after the third spoon, it was like everyone was frozen around me. Pin drop silence. After the fifth spoon, someone faux wretched, and the spell was broken. The looks of sheer terror and disgust was well worth the pain of eating vanilla pudding. I'm a chocolate kinda gal. One of my friends let me know he was going to pull this prank, so I helped him fill a jar with pudding. Then I swapped his jar of mayo pudding with a regular jar of mayo. I did the same thing at one of my final exams, however I didn't have enough vanilla pudding and had to use 1 box worth of butterscotch pudding. To the 3 boxes of vanilla. The result looked like mayo that had been left in a hot car in the Nevada desert for weeks on end. It looked horrific. It even looked disgusting to my roommates, and they knew the truth. I sat down in front row, pulled a jar out of my backpack, and started ferociously shoveling it into my mouth. The guy next to me looked over in shock. I hear something behind me ask, "What the F is wrong with that guy?" I turn around, still shoveling pudding into my mouth, and grin. I continued for about 5 minutes until even I couldn't stomach the thought of eating anymore. The people around me gave a look of disdain and fear as I left, never having told them that it was not, in fact, mayonnaise. Edit, I can't spell. When my brother and I were in middle school, my brother liked to skateboard with our next door neighbor. One day, my brother and the neighbor took the sheet of plywood from under my brother's upper bunk bed, no one slept in the upper bunk, out of the house and started making a skateboard ramp out of it in the neighbor's adjacent yard. My parents had explicitly told him that he wasn't allowed to do that. Now, in my defense, my brother teased me unmercifully, to the point of tears on multiple occasions, so keep in mind that he had it coming for a long time. Anyway, an evil little plan hatched in my brain. I ran to the upstairs window and yelled down at them, "Brother's name?" Guess what? Mom knows everything and she's so mad. Then I slammed the window shut and ran to the stairs and waited while watching my mom read the newspaper. A few months later, my brother walks into the front door looking worried and says, "Mom, I'm so sorry." My mom, who had no idea what was going on, said, "About what?" while slowly putting the newspaper down. "For making a skateboard ramp out of the wood from the bunk bed." "You did what?" At that moment, a wave of shock and realization swept across my brother's face, and our eyes met. I let out the biggest, evilest little sister cackle and ran into my room. We're adults now, and I still laugh about it from time to time. The AM supervisor at my office is a short little man who likes to work from a laptop on a rolling adjustable desk. For over a year, I gradually raised the height of this desk and watched as he went from sitting on a stool to an adjustable tall task chair to standing. Last week, he removed the wheels from his desk to lower the height. He doesn't realize it's adjustable. A friend kept trying to steal sushi off my plate at a sushi restaurant. So while she wasn't looking, I stuffed it full of wasabi, put a bit of fish back on top to cover my tracks, and pretended to not be looking when she started reaching towards it. She tossed it into her mouth, started chewing down, and I just swung my head towards her to say, "You messed up." 5 minutes of coughing, muffled screaming, and copious amounts of water later, she had learnt her lesson. One night I replaced every framed object in my boss's office with a picture of me making a stern face. Posters, certificates, photos, etc. Took like 3 hours because he had like 30 framed things in his office. The next day, I made sure I was out doing field work to make him sit with it most of the day. He had a lot of foot traffic to his office that day. I worked in an office that had 4 offices with shared partitions that had glass at the top. My neighbor wasn't the most observant person and kind of a dick. So I started printing random pictures like Nicolas Cage and setting them on my side of the office, facing into his. He never noticed. It got to the point where everyone else in the office would check out what photo I had set that week, but he never caught on. I farted under the covers and then pointed at the ceiling above my girlfriend and shouted, "Spider!" so she'd throw the blankets over her head. Later, when she told her parents, that turned out to be the thing that earned her dad's respect for me. Made him laugh so hard he needed an inhaler. Not me, but a story my mom used to tell on my dad. I don't know what it was about my dad's digestive system, but anything he ate came out smelling really bad. As in, he was in the bathroom, no one else could go in there for at least half an hour longer if he forgot to open the window. Honestly, the smell would gag a maggot. Heaven forbid you be the one Mom sent in there to open the window when he forgot. One night, Dad comes home from work, night shift, got in bed, stuck his butt out of the covers and passed a really rancid one, then pulled the covers up over his head so he didn't have to smell it. But what he didn't know is that Mom had just eaten something for supper that was just as noxious on its way out. She waited till he got his head under the covers and got a good seal on it, then let one rip. She said he came out from under those covers like a shot, gagging the whole time. I got a Harry Potter calligraphy set for my birthday years ago. It had Hogwarts marked paper, envelopes, and everything. My brother ate all of my birthday chocolates from an ant that night, so I plotted my revenge. Next September, I copied out Harry's letter word for word in Greek ink, only changing the name. I let him believe he was going to magical school for 2 whole weeks before I crushed it. Haha, kinda similar to what I did. My friend, let's call him Neil because that's his name, wanted to prank a mutual friend of ours who was traveling abroad at the time. While his mutual friend was in Sweden, Neil texted everyone in his phone book and told them all that his mutual friend Chris had West Nile virus. It was a well-known media scare disease at the time. Well, people went insane. This mutual friend Chris was waking up to hundreds of missed calls and texts asking him how he was and if he needed anything while he was in the hospital. Anywho, Neil took a quick break from swarming people's inboxes with West Nile news, and I swiftly changed my contact profile in his phone to Verizon Wireless, and deleted all of our texts. After about an hour, I started secretly sending texts to Neil stating, "Your data usage for this month is nearing the maximum on the account." This was back in the days before unlimited talk and text, so going over the monthly data plan meant an ass whooping from your parents. Whoa, I sent so many texts that Verizon said I'm using up almost all my data for the month, Neil said, and he puts his phone away. "Okay, I'm done for the night." I waited about 5 more minutes before sending about 10 messages in a row. "Your data usage for the month is now at maximum usage. Any additional calls or texts will incur a new cost of $10 USD per message/call. Before he could read up on the second message I sent, he was already in full meltdown mode. I just kept sending, "Your monthly bill has now increased to $249.99 for February." And with every text, his eyes watered and his blood ran cold through the text of his dad seeing the bill. All for a harmless prank. By the end of the night, I had sent him a running bill up to $790 before finally telling him it was all a joke. His mixed look of relief, hatred, and appreciation, and impressed was something I'll never forget, and even brought it up at his wedding 10 years later. Edit. Spelling. I used to work at a science tutoring center when I was in college in my gap year before professional school. One of the things we taught very often was anatomy, so naturally we acquired a few skeletons and various skulls with some variation in how they looked or were marked, etc. Well, I was closing one night and I knew my coworker was opening all the next morning early, so before I locked up, I assorted all the skeletons and skulls in a welcome party near the front door. I had one immediately at the opening of the door into the room and with several backup skeletons and skulls just behind at a table together watching on. The best part was that you have to turn the lights on manually and that switch is immediately to the side door opening. So when she reached down to turn on the lights, she had to come face to face with some lifeless skeleton skull in the middle of the shady opening. Needless to say, she screamed, and it was loud enough to make our boss come to see if she was okay. Woke up to some colorful texts, LMAO. Still proud of that one, honestly. At my sister's swim meet, I found an ice machine tucked away in a garage-looking thing, so I started collecting the ice and somehow managed to put ice in nearly everyone's shoe at the meet. It was wild, beautiful moment of pure confusion and chaos. Everyone started freaking out, and no one knew it was the little shy girl who secretly enjoyed turmoil. I lived in Korea for a bit. When my mom came to visit, I told my Korean girlfriend it was an American custom to greet older women by touching elbows. I told my mom the same story about Korean customs. It was a thing of beauty. They were not pleased. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. Did you like it? Make sure to check out some of our other stuff and even subscribe. Also, make sure to share this video as it really helps out the channel. As always, my name's Ryan from Askreddit Tells, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.